I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet here with the Golan and the Dude. And welcome back. It's good to see everybody. I hope everybody had an amazing New Year's, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever. You know what? I hope everybody had a happy those three. I'll leave out other religions.
End of the list.
Yeah, and a Festivus, right? So welcome everybody. And it's good to see you guys. Missed you guys.
You're back.
And I got to get right before we get to this Maduro thing. I got to get to Mamdani. Because this is really, I don't know if you guys saw this, one of his assistants to, I guess, housing or whatever she is, was doing this video where she was literally talking about redistribution of wealth from white people, but not specifically white house ownership men. But for the most part,
she was talking about taking away property rights, that we won't individually own property. The government's going to confiscate it and then give it to everybody. There's an old saying, if you steal $5 from one of your citizens and give $1 to 5 citizens, you lost 1 vote, you gained 5. That's what they're doing. It hasn't worked anywhere. You look at Venezuela. Venezuela used to be the richest country in South America, and it is now the poorest. They went socialism and they got a dictatorship, a dictator socialists, which is the way it always works. The guy at the top says, oh, I'm going to tell you all how it works and I'm going to control everything. He eats well and everybody else starves. It's not that everybody else becomes poor. Everybody literally starves. You run out of food. Venezuela has more oil than Saudi Arabia. They have more gold than entire Africa. They are so resource rich and they have no food on the shelves. People are starving and 8 million of them have fled for better life conditions, meaning food, to other countries. That's where these idiots in New York want to take it.
Yeah, you're 100. Golan, he's 100% correct. But it's
100%.
Interesting when you hear.
By the
them
way,
say this
everything
out loud.
it's every place that socialism is going on. This is what's going on. Every place.
But Golan, Golan, can you hear me? I was talking.
Yes.
I was talking to Ben Stein the other night. We did an episode of The World According to Ben Stein, and I was saying to him, and he disagreed a little bit, but I have no problem if Trump takes over New York. I mean, and obviously that's a big thing, but I would have no issues with them cutting all federal funding. And he's like, well, what about the people that didn't vote for? I don't care. Okay, we cannot have what's going on in New York spread, and we are really close. It has spread.
Well, this is also how it works when a war is declared, and a war can be declared in a lot of different ways. There is collateral damage. Sometimes that collateral damage is unfortunate, and sometimes it's a necessary evil. And there are people who did not want Mamdani in power, but they also are sitting back and saying, okay, it is what it is. There are other ones who are willing to fight against Mamdani, and those people would join in the fight with Trump or with the federal government. So, I think sometimes you need to break a few eggs in order to make an omelet. And right now, if the way he has already started, just a couple of days ago, that he, in a Hamas tunnel, essentially under New York, that he took office, well, he's already started off with a bang. He's already started off, let's just say for the Jews, for instance, changing the definition of anti-Semitism from the standard definition and revoking one of the laws, one of the executive orders that said you can't protest in front of a synagogue. In addition to that, the people that he's put in office and declared are going to be in certain positions are all very anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, even the Jewish ones, weirdly. And so anyone who's hanging out and thinking, let's just see where this goes, they might be in the way when it's time to take a dictator down.
Well said. And Mend, I was asking you this before the show because you actually are one of the rare few people that gave somebody amazing advice. And I've dealt with this for a long time with people cutting me off. I don't mean with a car, out of their lives. Obviously, I've been, relationship-wise, in many ways, I've lost a lot of relationships because of being a conservative. And this goes before Trump. But I could not have a conversation with somebody that voted for Mamdani. If I have a relative that voted for Mamdani, and I'm pretty sure I have quite a few, I would not talk to those people anymore. I would literally just cut them off because you're a communist. I do not believe in communism. I simply do not believe in communism. And this goes to when you're gone, I always love to get straight to the point. Just if you have to explain something in a few seconds, man, he's a communist.
He's a jihadi.
A jihadi communist.
So I do have an acquaintance. I have an acquaintance who we were in a chat group together. This guy's an absolute moron. I mean, he literally makes the stupidest statements all the time. He's always argumentative. He's always taking, the wrong take just to argue. So he was pro Mamdani. He goes, well, when politicians get into office, a lot of times they change. The things that they say on the campaign trail is not what they do. I'm like, you are an absolute moron. And I berated him in this chat so badly that he left. And then I went to DM. I just said, listen, I have to call you out because the stuff you say is just so moronic. You're such a goddamn idiot that it needs to be called out. You should literally just shut up, sit there and listen and possibly learn something. You don't always have to be the biggest mouth in the room. Sit back. I do that a lot. I like doing that all the time when I go into a meeting or whatever. I like just hearing the people out, give people a chance to say, then start talking. But this guy was always number one, so he's out. Cutting people off, I don't know. I also don't live in New York anymore. This is not my thing. It's my country. I care about it. I love New York City. I wish they would save themselves, but
this is the first shot in what is ultimately going to be not just a national but a global war. Well, this is the first. This is the first. But this is the first. This is the first successful shot of a different caliber.
One at a time, guys.
I think making an issue out of Mamdani getting sworn in a historic old New York City subway station and calling that Hamas tunnel is self-defeating. I don't think that does anyone any good. If you want to say that his first two executive orders that he did when he got in was he abolished the definition of anti-Semitism by the city, and he also abolished any of those anti-BDS laws that the city passed. Those are real things. Those are things you could call out and say, this proof positive, the guy's an anti-Semite, he's a jihadi, he's a lunatic, he's a communist, he's going to ruin the city. All of those things are valid. Talking about the subway station that he got into and calling it a Hamas thing, and I'm not talking about you, Golan. I've heard it, I've read it a whole bunch of times online, and I was like, you can't cry wolf on everything. You got to be selective. You got to pick the ones that are real. And when he abolished that definition, the HR whatever definition of anti-Semitism on his first day in office, the first thing he did, that shows you where this guy is. He is not about protecting his citizens, including the Jewish citizens. He's a jihadi. He's looking to usher in as much of this democratic socialism so that the jihadis could sneak their way in through the soft-minded liberals of the country who vote for these idiots.
Yeah, I think that you're also missing something. Is that we can only call out the things that are blatantly obvious, but I'll tell you what, there's not going to be that many of them. There's going to be consequences that we see where we're like, we see where this could go. We see, because even the two things we mentioned here, the changing of the definition and the and the removal of the protections of religious, protesting in front of religious sites, those two are actually, if you want to lump them together, he just revoked Eric Adams' executive orders. So two of them, you're cherry picking in order to say something. I'm an anti-Semite, but I'm not. I just revoked all of his orders because he was a corrupt mayor, and I'm a new mayor, and everything's okay now. Everything he's going to. He's very. Hang on a second. He's a very smart guy. Okay, he's a very smart guy, and he knows exactly how jihadis are. They didn't buy out the universities first, and buy out the educational institutions first, and buy out the think tanks first, because they wanted to fund all of that. And then they were like, oh my God, I just realized since we have all that stuff, maybe we can do some jihad. No, that was all planned ahead of time. Everything is subtle. Everything you don't see coming until it smacks you in the face, as we've discovered. Now that we're awake and we know that, right, we no longer have to only call out the obvious things, because that's how we're going to get smacked again. Because the people who don't see the subtle things or the dog whistles or whatever you want to call them, if we don't point those out, and it's our jobs as commentators to do so, they're going to miss it. Most people don't see the things until they're blatantly obvious. The blatantly obvious things are going to be few and far between. The idea that he chose swearing in an abandoned subway tunnel, whatever you want,
on the Quran.
And by the way, not only on the Quran, there are specific portions of the Quran that he chose to speak. All of that, you know what? The optics, let's just say it's optics. Okay, let's just pretend, what accidental optics of Hamas terror tunnels. Accidental optics while he's swearing on a Quran. The symbolism matters in politics. All symbolism matters. And when your first act visually evokes underground terror tunnels speaking Qurani, yeah, sorry, I'm going to have to call it out. And I don't know how many people called it out online. It was the first thing I noticed. First thing I mentioned to my wife. So no, we don't only have to call out the obvious things. We have to call out all of them, because there's going to be 1,000 of them. The IHRA definition, of course, matters, even if it was just lumped in with Eric Adams' other executive orders. The protesting in front of synagogues does matter, even though it was lumped in. We have to call out all of these things because collectively is how we're going to see the trouble.
I'll let
Well,
Mend
he also
finish
did.
on this because I want to move on.
He also did what was defined as the Nazi salute, which is the from the heart to the people, which is what they accused Elon Musk of doing. And when they accused Elon Musk of it,
and I'm sure he did it deliberately, knowing that now we can't say it because someone defended Elon Musk and the Republicans versus the Democrats. And oop, I got away with being Hitler-esque. It's all on purpose. Nothing he's done since day one has been by accident. And some of it he's already proven wasn't by accident. A lot of it he won't. He's too smart to give you the blatants.
Let Mend finish up.
I disagree. I think when you start calling dog whistles, like anytime some idiot on CNN is talking about a dog whistle, I tune it out because it's all horse crap. And when they did it to Elon, it was horse crap. And the Mamdani thing, it's also horse crap. He wasn't doing a Nazi salute. He was doing the same thing they all do. Everybody's done it. It's been done by a million different people. Swearing on the Quran. He's a Muslim. You a freaking Muslim, a radical jihadi to run the country. What do you think? He was going to pull out an Old Testament, a Bible? No, that's what they do. They bring out their Muslim thing, their Quran. So I don't like going down the rabbit hole of like, oh, that's a dog whistle and it really means this and you have to bend over backwards. No, there's enough real things to focus on that this guy's doing. That's 4-alarm fire. You don't need to add other things.
I'll just say one sentence, Judah, and I'll hand it back to you. And the one sentence is, you don't have to go down a rabbit hole, but please stop going down the primrose path. That's it.
Okay. Well, listen, well said, both of you. Good way to start off the new year. Little disagreement among friends. But I will say this, Mend, the reason why sometimes it is important to, I'm not going to disagree or agree with either of you on this one. I will say this, remember, it was you that believed the good people on both sides in Charlottesville. You did buy into
I did.
a lot.
I bought in, not a lot. I bought into that one.
Right. But what I'm saying is a lot of things do sometimes have to be dissected, and it could be done differently, if you want to say, because there are a lot of people out there that all they're seeing is the feeds like you were seeing in Canada at the time, that were like, oh my God, I can't believe he said this. So you do have to fight certain things. I want to move on if that's okay, because I think this Venezuela thing this Venezuela thing. I'm glad David texted me what was going on at like 2 a.m, and I'm glad I did not see his text because I would have been up all night watching the Venezuela thing. But you talk about, and Ben called me up on Saturday and he goes, who's, going the Monroe Doctrine. Haven't people heard of the Monroe Doctrine? Of course we're allowed to go and do that. And then he's like, we took over Japan. We were there for 5 years. And, he's like telling me all the things that, America has done, that all these arguments, all these counter arguments. And my biggest thing is what I love about it is how it was America's back. This was precise. This was done perfectly. Nobody got killed. A helicopter was apparently shot. The press conference afterwards was absolutely brilliant with him, Rubio, and Hegseth, and that guy they call Raisin Cane. The whole thing was just done perfectly. Remember, Maduro was under indictment and they got him out. There was a $50 million bounty on his head. Joe Biden put it on. Everybody did it. Trump went in there, sent in the military, said, take him out.
And by the way, what a hilarious exchange between Rubio and Trump as he was giving his speech. And there's a $50 million bounty. Turns around, I guess we just saved $50 million. And then Trump, you hear him off screen, just go, make sure nobody else claims that. That's us. We're the only ones who got credit for this. Just wonderful, wonderful stuff. I couldn't have written it better if I was writing a parody, but beautifully done. I mean, quite honestly, by the way, who am I to ever disagree with Ben Stein? He's absolutely right. It's rooted in the Monroe Doctrine, obviously, and it sends a message to the rest of the bad actors in the world, right? This is something that is saying, you know what, I'm not going to quote Rubio because I don't remember exactly what he said, but Rubio said it perfectly. He was like, if you thought this was just another president who sat in meetings and talkied instead of action, you're sorely mistaken, and now you figured it out. And the rest of the bad actors in the world have figured it out too. By the way, there's been other countries that Trump has started to say things about that, hey, now that you know, again, every time he does something, it's a message. It's a dog whistle, if you will, man. It's a message to the rest of the world that now you know I'm not screwing around, right?
Apparently Domino's Pizza, by the way, is on high alert again. And what's really funny is everybody that poo-pooed that whole Domino's or the pizza thing, it was on the other night when this was happening, like it was like triple the amount of pizzas or quadruple the amount of pizzas they were like, it was the New York Post. They're like, well, maybe there is something to this pizza story, not Pizzagate, but
Yeah.
to the fact that they order pizzas as they're watching this. So I thought that was really good. And men, to Golan's point of what he just brought up, they were all in sync. We have not witnessed something like this in a really long time with Secretary of Defense. You know, you had obviously the head of the CIA there with John Radcliffe, and this was planned for months. They were waiting to go in for a few days. And I think here's the rule with Trump. If you ask a dumb question, you should never be allowed to ask a question again. So whoever asked the question, why wasn't Congress notified beforehand, should lose all asking privileges from now on, because we all know they leak. So, men, I thought this was brilliant.
Yeah, there was no leaks, which is huge.
Because it was 4 people that knew.
It's great. It's probably more than 4. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah, yeah.
military planning. They built that whole tuna compound, whatever it's called, something tuna, Fort Tuna. And they've been practicing storming it for months. I think it's 3 months they've been practicing this thing. They had teams on the ground tracking everything that Maduro did. They knew where he was at all times. They had a guy on his team that was feeding them information. So a lot of people are saying that this is about drugs, this is about oil, but it's about a
Not
lot
Tucker
more.
Carlson. It's about gay marriage. But go
Yeah,
on.
for him, it's gay marriage. But, you know,
I think everything's about gay marriage with Tucker Carlson. Keep
it's
it going.
closet homosexuals. It's always going to be about gay marriage. So you see a lot of people talking about it being about oil, which 20 years ago, Venezuela expropriated American oil property in their country. So part of it is oil. They took what was ours, they socialized it, and then degraded it. And they use that oil, they send that oil to Iran and China, 2 of our countries that are not our friends. They are, I think it's $40 billion in the hole to China. So Maduro's regime and Hugo Chavez before him borrowed 40 billion from China, and to pay it back, they've been giving China oil at crazy discounted rates. So us going in there, one, it is about drugs. It's a transit point for a lot of the fentanyl that comes into our country. A lot of the cocaine as well. Fentanyl comes out of Mexico too, which is why Trump put Mexico on alert after this happened, saying, hey, if you don't handle it, look at us. We're willing to go in and take care of business. But even more than that, I mean, you're talking about China getting a foothold in our backyard. If they fired a missile from Venezuela, it would hit us in something like 20 seconds. So,
well, explain that too, because I think it's really important because people don't understand this. So, for instance, Puerto Rico, for 24 hours, shut down their airspace. Why did they shut down their airspace? And Puerto Rico is ours, because it's 500 miles away. So from Venezuela. So you're talking about something that you just brought up that's extremely important. It's something we talked about with the Virgin Islands, with other places, with Florida. When you do certain things, it's very close to us. Okay, man, 500 miles is nothing. So Puerto Rico did shut down their airspace. Sorry.
They allowed China, they allowed Russia, they allowed Iran through Hezbollah set up operations in Venezuela. That's unacceptable. We can't have that in our backyard. And Trump invoked the Monroe Doctrine, which now he's calling it the Monroe
Doctrine.
Monroe Doctrine. I love it.
Yeah.
And it makes complete sense. I love
well,
what
let's
they're doing.
Explain a little bit about what it's about, because the Monroe Doctrine was set up that it was about colonization. We didn't want Europe colonizing us. We didn't want them colonizing them. And it's had its...
It basically said that in the Northern Hemisphere, in our backyard, we are the dominant force. We're not going to allow Britain or France to come in here, take over some countries and set up shop. We're going to protect that. We're going to protect Central South America from the spheres of influence, and it's got to be under our sphere of influence.
Yeah,
it was a lot of weak presidents.
Gunboat diplomacy was what they called it. It was basically, if you're going to have a problem and you're going to send a ship over to wherever you have a problem that has guns on it, in our hemisphere, that's how it used to be. And from now on, if you have a problem, you talk to us and we'll send a ship with guns on it to where the problem is. We control that sort of thing, not you. That's the idea of the Monroe.
Goal on the irony, though, is that Latin America was very pro it at the time. Out there, but so we started the show with Ben Stein. He's like, he took control, which is Ben Stein, of course. And he's like, Judah, the Monroe Doctrine is before your time. And he's like, It's 1823.
Before his time too.
It's 1823. So I was like, well, it's before your time too.
He was a teenager then.
But you're closer to before that time. Again, it's what Men's brought up. I love this. The reason it's so important, again, see, what Mend is bringing up goes back to what we were talking about before. Everybody's going to look for these little loopholes and go, well, we're getting more fentanyl from China. We're getting more drugs from Mexico. We're getting more stuff from here. They are a hub of the worst of the worst. When you're talking about Iran, when you're talking about China, when you're talking about Russia, I don't care if there's 100 grams more coming from Mexico or whatever it is. This was a 100% the right move, and he pled innocent today. And I hope the case is taken to Florida because I'm scared to death of this case being tried in New York City right now.
Well, it's a federal jury, right?
Yeah,
it's a federal grand jury.
Yes.
He's already indicted.
Yeah, he's already indicted.
But in 2020, I believe he was indicted. So the other thing to note is that the cartels in Mexico, for the most part, are selling drugs to the U.S. to make money, right? They're doing it to make money. The Venezuelan government, which is partners in De La Solas, the cartel De La Solas, and Tren de Aragua.
I think that was a good band. De La Sol, wasn't that a band?
De La Sol. They're doing this to undermine America. They're killing Americans because they are trying to weaken America. This is a war, proxy war by China and Russia against the Americans, and they're using the Venezuelans. That country got raped and pillaged by Iran, by China, and by Russia. And you did not hear any of these social activists speaking about that. While the people of Venezuela starved to death and their resource-rich country was being sold to China and Russia and Iran, none of these social activists were out there complaining or marching or doing anything. Yet the minute we took down Maduro, there was thousands of people in the streets from all of these Soros-backed organizations immediately, rapid. I was so impressed at how fast they did that.
Yeah, their response was quicker than Vance's.
Absolutely.
But anyways.
And back to the original thing is they need to do that RICO Act and go after these people and shut it down. I don't know why Pam Bondi is dragging her feet on this one, but that needs to be done ASAP.
Yeah, but Golan, I agree with you. But
it's a refrain I've heard you say many times. We've all said many times. Why is Pam Bondi dragging her feet on this one?
But Golan, getting back to the point, I think you do have to, there's a lot of specific incidents with Venezuela, obviously. But the biggest thing is they are a clear and present danger. Everything they have done, everything they are doing serves as a clear and present danger to the United States of America. And if you think otherwise, you're a jackass. Okay.
Look, I know that we're not in the business of going and helping other countries deal with their problems, but for every single person, and it's usually right now the liberals who are coming out and talking about how it's so bad, and what did Mamdani say for himself? You broke international law, which, by the way, there's no such thing. We can talk about that another time if you'd like to. But really, Judith, I can't hear you. Say that again.
Bring that up quickly because Mamdani claims to have called Trump and said like he got through. I can't see Trump taking Mamdani's call. I got to be honest and saying, Donald, I disagree with this. I just can't see that getting through. I could see him calling the White House switchboard.
There was a great cartoon on this on Instagram. Someone sent me. I don't have an Instagram account anymore, but someone sent me this cartoon. It was so funny. And basically, it was a cartoon of Mamdani calling Trump. Donnie's like, Donald, you have broken international law. And then Trump just goes, who is this? It says Uganda. Is this a prank call? No, it's me. It's Zoran Mamdani. And I got to tell you. And he goes, okay, well, what do you want me to do about it? He goes, no, nothing. I just have to tell people I called. He goes, oh, so you don't want to have any solutions? He goes, no, got to virtue that signal. All right, nice talking to you. Bye. And that was it. It was great. But no, the idea that he's lambasting Trump for breaking international law. First of all, Donald Trump is not beholden. No American president is beholden to any this like concept of international law, unless you're saying I'm going to follow everything the UN tells us, which we know we don't. That's why we have veto power. So no, that's not a real thing. It's beholden to the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. That's about it. Beyond that, if you actually know anything about the Monroe Doctrine, if you don't, give Ben Stein a call. He'll explain it to you. But basically, it states exactly what we're doing here. And that's been, as Judah pointed out, around since 1823. I do want to point out a couple other things just because you mentioned them. First of all, they were asked, and he's not the only time he's been asked, why hasn't Congress been informed? Why hasn't this person been informed? That person been informed? When you know that elected officials, and we're talking about actually elected officials, the Ilhan Omars, the Zoran Mamdanis, and of course, people that are sitting in Congress, when there is a track record of people signaling opposition before a mission even begins, people who have said, I am on the side. Well, what did Ilhan Omar say? I am Somali more than I'm American. All of that stuff. You know, when Zoran Mamdani's last pitch for mayor is literally him speaking in Arabic with a Palestinian flag behind him, and you're like, maybe I shouldn't be sharing what we're doing. There's a reason for it. All right, when your government officials are openly sympathetic to America's adversaries, secrecy stuff being optional starts being necessary. So anyway, we can put that aside. It's a dumb question because you have to close your eyes to the reality that's been existing for quite some time. Beyond that, I just wanted to read something to you guys. A friend of mine who, I'm not going to read the whole thing because I don't want to put him on blast, but this Venezuelan friend of mine who is a brilliant filmmaker, he posted something to a group that we're in, and I just want to read a little portion of it. He said, someone said, what can we do to help? And he was talking about all sorts of stuff, and he said, the most important part, whoever has any power in the Democratic Party should suggest they stop criticizing the moves that the Trump administration are taking. Venezuelan freedom was bipartisan during Obama and Biden. I don't know what they're smoking now, but every Venezuelan Democrat is heartbroken that suddenly the Democrats in the States are telling everybody that what they did is wrong. We need all the help we can get. And then he goes on and on from there. But what I'm noticing on every message board from every Venezuelan I know, every message I get from Venezuelans that I know, all of them are so on both sides of the aisle. Doesn't matter what their political party is. Everyone's so happy. Everyone's so happy that this monster has finally been removed from power. Anyone who's criticizing it is doing so, as a friend of ours pointed out, I won't say who it is, it's just purely because of TDS, purely because of Trump derangement syndrome. There is no other reason than that.
Listen, I think you're 100% correct. And Mend, to the bigger point, this isn't regime change. This isn't any.
It is regime change. We absolutely are doing it. We're making them change their ways. They were funneling drugs from Colombia and Central South America up to America, and there was a drug dealer in charge. People hate this word regime change.
No. But you didn't let me finish.
Yeah,
you
sorry.
Didn't let me. Yeah, before you, obviously,
got excited there. Got excited.
Obviously, by taking out the dictator, you open up the avenues for regime change. Trump has offered the vice president, who is loyal to Maduro, the opportunity to change her evil ways, which is something that she's not doing. So we will be forced.
Her response was, this feels Zionist.
Right. This feels Zionist. Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, she might have even said this feels Jewish. I
mean, she said this has Zionist undertones, is what she said.
Yes, she was reading, she follows Candace Owens. And Mend, yes, 100%. This opens the avenue for regime change, but they're giving them the opportunity that they're not seizing on.
Trump's doing it really smartly. And he does this all the time.
He goes right to the person, on me, ready to choke me on that one.
Sorry, I got very excited on that one. But what he does is he gives the guy an off ramp, as JD Vance pointed out a couple of times. He goes, the president offered multiple off ramps. It was very clear throughout that this process: 1, drug trafficking must stop. The stolen oil, all of the oil assets that they stole in, 20 years ago. 20 years ago.
Yeah, basically they made Chevron the only company the biggest company that could export oil. That was it, was Chevron.
Yeah, and they kicked out all of the other American oil companies that invested billions of dollars in the oil operations in Venezuela. They just stole it. They took away, they kept all the assets and kicked the companies out. So Trump said, 1, drugs must stop. The oil must be returned. And he was giving him these off ramps, and the guy just did not comply. He's out. Next one comes in charge. Now, a lot of people are upset that Trump didn't back the person the person who legally won the last election, because the guy who won the last election won it by 40 points. This was not even close. They couldn't even cheat enough. I mean,
you're referring to the woman. It was the woman.
Wait a second.
I don't think she was a woman.
Can I point something out real quick? Sorry, men. Do you mind? Because I think what you're saying right now is exactly why it cannot be considered regime change. You're actually pointing out why it is not regime change. Regime change, again, maybe it's semantics, okay? And so you're going to have to forgive me if it's too semantical for you. But regime change means that we are installing a new ideology or a puppet government of some kind, that we are backing someone, that we're pushing a certain person into office and all of that. Him not backing anybody, him saying, I am targeting one individual. I'm not targeting Venezuela as a whole. I'm not targeting the Constitution. I'm not targeting the institution. I'm targeting one guy and his wife, right? So that is not regime change, because that guy, the one guy that they targeted, was already charged as a criminal. He was not treated as a legitimate sovereign, right? Basically, if he's the head of a narco state, right, and he's got outstanding indictments for drug trafficking, corruption, and all the other stuff, then this is a law enforcement action. This is national security. It's not conquest. Conquest is what you're talking. When you say regime change, it has a specific flavor to it. The regime in Venezuela had already lost democratic integrity. That was gone. The legitimacy was gone, right? And many countries, U.S. included, by the way, and this is not just this administration, it's the previous one before that, already didn't recognize Maduro as a legitimate president, as a lawful president there. So if you remove an illegitimate ruler, that is fundamentally different from overthrowing a legitimate government, that would be regime change. That is a different thing. There's no occupation, there's no colonial administration, none of the stuff that would normally be involved here. This is taking out an illegal guy, basically a guy who installed himself illegally as the ruler of a country that wasn't recognized by most legitimate places, took him out, and then said, okay, the one guy who's the criminal is now out of the way, proceed as you would. And I'm not backing anybody. I'm not trying to install anybody. That's a very important distinction.
Okay, and by the way, man, the woman's name is Maria Corina Machado. She's the one that
she was not the one who, she didn't win the presidency. Edmundo Gonzalez is the guy who won the presidency. She's the part of that party, and she won the Nobel Peace Prize. So there's two people. Trump came out and he said that these guys are just not ready for, or
they're
she's
not strong
ready.
enough right now. He's 100% correct. He's 100% correct.
I personally, I don't think that needed to be said. I think what he should have done was
I agree
not
with
even
you.
address that. He should have left that be. He went to the next one in charge, which is what we should have done in Iraq. We should have done this in Afghanistan. You take out the top guy, and then you go to the next guy. You say, hey, you're going to comply? Are you going to play nice, or are you going to continue with your terroristic ways? Oh, you're not going to? Wham, you're out. And the next guy comes up, and it's the easiest way for us to get a country that is maligned to change their ways. So he's doing that. He said, we're going to run the country. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to coerce whoever's in charge to change their ways. Stop running drugs. Stop selling all the country's assets. Stop killing the innocent protesters. All the things that we want them to do. We could apply leverage with our military. This is not Obama's leverage where he goes, oh, we're going to add some sanctions and really not add sanctions or whatever, and carve outs and loopholes and all the other stuff. No, we have a giant military right there. You don't want to do it? We'll take you out. All the 50 Cuban bodyguards that Maduro had are all dead. They're all done. We clean them up in an hour. So there's a lot of leverage
that is
there.
the difference too, right? So again, targeting the one criminal guy. This wasn't like Iraq 2003. There was no shock and awe, no nation building fantasy.
Well, it was shocking off for the people on that base that night.
That's true.
I got to say, I love the video Trump posted, or the White House posted, of Fogarty, CCR's fortunate son. That's minute and 20, and I'm happy I haven't heard John Fogarty yet. At least,
you know that's coming.
No, you don't.
I didn't see that one. I saw a different one.
No, you want to know why I don't see that coming yet? Because Fogarty's actually a huge supporter of Israel. And he was one of the first musicians that actually, Fogarty has changed a lot as he's gotten older and as he's gotten his catalog back, thanks to Irving Azoff, getting it back for him. So I want to move on, though, quickly to Minnesota, because there's two things that are going on in Minnesota. Well, there's a lot of things going on in Minnesota. It's not two things. But Walls, apparently Minnesota, this is where it gets so wonky. I really wish there was like a national thing. You have like some states that, you're a governor for 2 years. You have Virginia, that's 4 years. You have 8-year term limits in many states, but go on, you could be governor forever in a lot of states. And Minnesota is one of them. And Tim Walz has decided not to run for re-election, I guess.
What a coincidence.
Too many drive-by retards screams. And he was intimidated by this. But don't kid yourself. This is a big thing for somebody like Tim Walz, who will never work again. Remember, this is a guy that didn't have a bank account, all that stuff. This is a
Luckily,
guy
he's
that,
got some portion of $9 billion sitting in a bank account somewhere.
yeah, but so I thought that was extremely interesting. And I also think it's disgustingly sick that the Hilton brand over there have denied Homeland Security hotel rooms. Now, of course, Hilton has come out and said, well, we have to look into it. This is a national problem. The fact that you have a branch of one of the most major hotel chains, hotel, motel, whatever the Hilton is, coming out and saying this, go on, is you're screwed right now. That brand is screwed, and it's absolutely disgusting and vile that they chose to do this.
Well, and to be clear, emails came out. Emails were leaked that basically showed that the hotel refused rooms to ICE and said they won't
It's
allow
not just
ICE.
refused.
What was it?
They
I
booked
don't
the
have
rooms.
the time. Yeah.
They booked the rooms and they used government email addresses to book it, and those rooms got canceled. But if you book the rooms with a private email address, they weren't canceling it. So they were just directly discriminating against government employees. This is blowing up in their face. Hilton is screwed.
Absolutely.
I'm a elite member at Hilton, and I wrote to them as soon as we saw it. Care to explain? Just that. At Hilton. Care to
You're like, no
explain?
longer am I staying at, there's a Motel 6 for me from now on. Or Motel 8, whatever
We're
it's
moving
called.
over to some other brand. We'll go to
whatever it's called. But man, I think this is a big story. I think, listen, if it's a massive mistake by the people that ran, obviously, the Hilton over there, but this goes to every state, and this goes to, why is it okay for them to do this to us? Going back to my original thing of what I'm saying is, at a certain point, we have to start saying to people, you know what? Screw you. We're done with you. You don't get to choose you being done with us. No, we're done with you. And I'm saying and it's like the boycotts and all that stuff with Bud Light and all the other ones that have at Target that seem to have worked worked out perfectly well. But this is, Republicans have to learn how to be a little more tough.
With Target was a great example because Target first got boycotted by the conservatives because they were selling underwear to hide boys' weenies. It would tuck into a pouch or something. It's ridiculous. I can't even believe we're talking about this. Then when they buckled to all the pressure from everybody saying, why are you selling this crazy trans stuff to kids front and center? And they removed that stuff or they put it in the back of the store. Then the lefty lunatics decided to boycott them as well. So Target got boycotted from both sides, which is the way it should be. And what should be is these companies should not be stepping in the middle of this stuff. If you are a company like Target, where your primary constituents, your customers are families, be family oriented and don't go to some woke DEI social score that you're trying to get by throwing trans in little kids' faces. It's not going to be great for your brand. And I think the takeaway from that
and what you're talking about is if you try to play both sides against the middle, you're going to get crushed.
That's it. That is it. They made a mistake in the beginning by going pro-trans. Then they tried to pull it out. You can't. The lefty trans people went nuts, and now everybody's mad at them. So they managed to piss off everybody.
Yeah,
it should be noted, as you mentioned, by the way, just to clarify for our listeners, the corporate office, basically what they want, they clarified I don't know if every branch, but the Minneapolis branch anyway, is independently owned and operated, and they would have welcomed ICE agents and all that. So I don't want to put necessarily the entire, I want to be careful about putting the entire brand on blast. Maybe you won't be that careful about it. But I know that sometimes my father used to own an independently owned and operated branch of a restaurant, and they just let us do whatever the hell we wanted back then. And so I know that sometimes people can make decisions. Sometimes it could be an employee that did it. Sometimes it could be an independent branch that did it. I don't necessarily want to put the entire branch on blast.
Was it IHOP, Piggly Wiggly?
It was not. It was a restaurant that I don't know if it exists anymore called El Pollo Asado, and it was delicious barbecue chicken. Anyway, the point
Not
is,
familiar with it.
That's because you didn't live in Dallas, Texas when I was in fifth grade.
I want to move on. You guys have any final thoughts? Oh, what I wanted to say, Golan, before we move on, is because Men brought this up in the beginning, and I think it's extremely. Listen, we have a lot of listeners of different ages. and we often throw out terms. So when you said Mamdani went, banned the BDS thing, or he was pro the BDS thing, explain exactly what BDS is, because it seems at this point like it's so 15 years ago after October 7th, what it actually means.
Men, do you want to take this? You love talking about BDS.
Sure. The BDS is boycott, divest, and sanction, and it's just a tool that they use to hurt the state of Israel. They demonize Israel, and they use it across all sectors of life. So from education, where they will refuse to work with Israeli professors, to business, to, you name it. This is their tool where they are going to hurt the Jewish state. It is blatantly racist, and a lot
100%.
of countries and organizations have banned BDS. They do not want to have any part of it. The previous administration in New York made a law that said you cannot.
Yeah. A lot of states, but let's talk about New York in particular, because the Mamdani guy is there, where you cannot enact BDS policies for the city level, meaning the pension fund or any of the businesses that city uses can't say, oh, we're not going to buy that product because it came from Israel, or we're not going to, collaborate on security issues for the city with the Israelis because of BDS, any of that stuff.
And it gets a little worse. I'm just gonna add one thing. It gets a little worse than that, because it's not just, I wouldn't agree with it if it was, but it's not just like the settlements, where it's not just that these policies. They're going after anyone Israeli artists, academics, athletes, filmmakers, and now they've escalated BDS to anyone who supports Israel, which means the dreaded Tucker Carlson Christian Zionists, and also a vast, over 80% majority of Jews as well. So basically, BDS is just targeting Jews and allies worldwide. Right.
It's also important to note where it really got its legs was Europe in the first place, places like Britain, and places where they had a ton of musicians, some of your favorite, some of our favorite musicians, except for Elvis Costello, not really one of my favorite musicians. But go on, this was really started and gained steam in Britain and in other places. And
can I actually, just because I've been working on something with a friend of mine, and I will say that BDS actually borrows directly from Nazi era boycotts of the Jews. I know it seems like, oh, go Nazi right away, but not a metaphor in this case. Actually, legitimately, structurally, the original blueprint of BDS started in Europe. I won't go into the whole thing because it's much longer than we have time for, but it was one of the first steps that the Nazis implemented towards Jewish eradication. It wasn't camps, it wasn't gas chambers. The first thing they did was boycott, and it was there was a phrase in German. It's the last thing I'll say about it, which was Kauf nicht bei Juden, and it was don't buy from Jews. The goal was economic pressure, just like today. The goal was social isolation, just like today. The goal was moral delegitimization, just like today. It was the concept was to make Jews and untouchable and problematic and all of that. It's the same thing. They just replaced the word Jew with Zionist or Jew with Israeli. We know that, again, these are just, sorry, man, dog whistles for Jew. I know dog whistles bother you. I hope you didn't nap when I said that. But the mechanism is identical.
Okay, before we move on to the last subject, I just want to ask you a quick question, man. It's interesting because you brought up Rubio the other night. You brought up Hegseth and what they were talking about. And it was Rubio that actually brought this up. Like, Trump is saying this at a certain point, he's done enough that you should believe this. And it's so interesting, man, that afterwards you have Starmer, you have all these numbnut places coming out and going how they were against this Venezuelan attack. They have to look into it, look at the law. And you have to think, like, if you're Keir Starmer from Britain, you might be the dumbest son of a bitch politician that has ever existed. You might want to have listened to what Rubio said and maybe save what was a political career and say, yeah, we're with Trump on this one, man. And it's amazing that they can't, because they're owned by Islamic radicals. They could not stand up for their own country because they've been invaded, men. The easiest thing for Starmer or any of these people to do the other night would have been to call up Trump and say, great job. What do? Have a UN session today.
Well, Starmer himself he's at the highlight of his career. Prior to this, he defended Islamic extremist groups in the UK. There was a guy named Abu Qadada and his Ut Tahrir. These are absolute terrorists. These guys were the worst of the worst, and he was there, he was defending them. So when you look at these people, it all makes sense why they believe a certain way, why they act a certain way. He comes here and he plays nice with Trump. That's only because they're trying to get something out of Trump. Deep down, not even that deep, they oppose everything the US is doing. They hate us. They are for open borders. They are for the invasion of Islamization of Europe, of the UK, and of America. Everything that we stand for, everything that made these countries great, these people, these woke liberals are against. And then if you look at it through that lens, it all makes sense. Starmer's not an idiot. He's not ruining his career. He's doing what he actually has always done.
Well, listen, he has a shelf life. My eggs that I bought today have a longer shelf life than he does. But go on, getting to the final thing. I just want to get on this. So
Wait, can I just comment on that real quick?
Yeah.
Just one quick thing.
But it was about this. I just want to add one more thing to this before I go to you. This is why Musk is not a fan of Farage. Because even Farage came out and pretty much sort of said the same thing. He's like, well, I'm pro this, but I'm not really for, and it's like I understood at that moment. And Musk is a visionary in this sense. I couldn't understand why he had such a what on for Farage. But I got it when Farage came out with his statement.
Well, whoever it is, by the way, there's Mexico did this, Brazil did, a bunch of places did this thing too, where they're signaling hesitation or they're signaling ideological discomfort or they're full on siding with Maduro. And that's not neutrality. It's not ideological disagreement. That is self-sabotage for them. And it means we can no longer trust our ally. Period. There's no other way to look at it. Remember Britain not long ago, Starmer, once again, part of the Five Eyes network. Remember we talked about the Five Eyes network on a previous show? The most important, the most powerful intelligence sharing mechanism that exists in the world. UK is one of them. And they stopped sharing information and intelligence with the United States because they were worried we might, blow up some drug boats. So this is not the first shot across the bow the UK has taken at the US. This is now the umpteenth time they've done this. So basically, they're catering to domestic political forces that hate the alliance that we have together, and we can't trust them. And there's no third option. That's all it is. We can see who Starmer keeps appeasing over and over again. He's bent over backwards time and time and time again, as you mentioned, to kowtow to these Islamist activist blocs, these whatever you call them, what do they call them? Like no kings debates, except it's funny in the UK, you can't say that, but anti-imperialist, I think they called them in the UK. Radicals who side with the enemies of the West. This is a group who we can't trust. And the same goes for groups that seem like they are on our side, but then slowly, quietly kind of slip in things that go, wait a minute, that doesn't back us and also makes us look not only will make us look like we're either ideological on the wrong side of history or makes us look weak. In this case, we don't look weak. We look strong no matter what any of them say, but it makes us look like we're illegitimate in their eyes. And that makes at least some people give us a side eye. So we know we have to nip that in the bud for all of them, even the ones that seem like Farage, that seem like they might be on our side, but suddenly started speaking out the other side of their mouth.
Like Bojo. Okay, I want to finish up with...
What's Nigel Farage saying now?
It was a very weird go on. If you could look that up, exactly what he said when you get it was not what you would expect from somebody like Farage. But I want to move on to the last thing, which is commentary. And before we started the show,
whoa! What about Iran?
Yes, Iran.
Farage. Wait a second. Let me just answer that question. Farage called the U.S. military action unorthodox and contrary to international law. There's that phrase again. Maybe he got a call from Mamdani too, and suggested that such a dramatic move might have strategic benefits because it can make China and Russia think twice about their own actions on the world stage, but made him uncomfortable.
Yeah, so a lot of people are using that as they're saying, well, if we could kidnap Maduro, then China might just go into Taiwan and kidnap their president. Let me tell you fools something. China's going into Taiwan, not you guys. I'm saying the fools that say that.
Yeah, they've been saying this about Netanyahu too. The same idiots are using the Netanyahu thing.
You going to grab that? One is Maduro was not the elected president of Venezuela. He's a guy who stole the election according to everybody, the complete international body that had monitors on the ground, saw that he lost by 40 points, yet he refused to leave. Under Biden and Obama, they made deals that if he has a free and fair election, we would let them sell oil. He then did not have a free and fair election, but we had allowed him already to sell a ton of oil, so he made tons of money. I mean, the whole thing was so convoluted. But the bottom line is, this is not the elected leader of a country. This is a drug dealer who stole the president's office, and the Americans indicted him. He's a criminal. They went in and got him. It is a textbook case. It's classic, and it is clean. Not a single American got killed. We lost zero assets there. So that's what we're talking about there.
Okay, well said. And Golan, to his final point of the thing with Iran, obviously there's extreme unrest in the streets. There's a good God. This is and this is what started with men before the show when I keep on saying that the war went too quickly. Trump used all of his political capital, especially when sending in the bombs, but had that war lasted a little bit longer, just, another week, maybe they could have gotten more weapons to the resistance.
Back the opposition.
To back the opposition. And what we're watching now is, sadly, you're going to see a lot of people. He's not going down quietly. He's not going to do, what the Shah should have done, which was just mow them down on the streets. I mean, the Shah didn't do that. He's going to actually mow these people down on the streets as much as he can, no matter how much. And supposedly he has an exit strategy, but these are all rumors. And this is like a really fluid situation. Would I be surprised if David texted me at 2:00 again this morning and said that, Ayatollah's in Russia right now? Absolutely not.
I've been talking about it.
You've been talking about it?
The rumor has been that Khomeini is ready to flee to Russia. By the way, for those of you who are not following what's going on in Iran, this is not some minor skirmish. This is not a couple of people, protesting in the streets. This is mass uprisings. This is national strikes. The security forces are losing control. I mean, when I say security forces, I mean IRGC, right? The Islamist security forces are losing control of what's going on there. Just to be clear, this is not necessarily about even how they're being treated, because they've been treated this way for a while. This is about economic frustration hitting a boiling point. There's no water. There's no water in Iran, to the point where they were talking, and this is months ago now, or weeks ago at the very least, they were talking about moving the capital of the country, because they can't have a capital with no water, not fixing the water problem, just moving the whole capital. Let's pick up this building and take it somewhere else. Like insanity.
They invested billions of dollars, billions and billions of Iranian dollars into Hezbollah, into the Houthis, into Hamas, into all of these malign.
Their own people, but their own people.
They did not spend anything on infrastructure, which is why they have the water problems. Their army turned out to be a paper tiger when Israel went in and the Americans went in and took them out in 12 days, just utterly decimated them. We realized that they weren't this big, strong beast that they claimed to be, although they could still do a lot of damage, which is what they're trying to do, because they've learned from that war too. And they realized that if they stock up on enough missiles, they could overwhelm the defensive systems and missiles will start getting through into populated cities and they'll be able to kill a lot of Americans and Israelis. So that's throughout the Middle East. So that's where they are. They've mismanaged everything. Their lira, I think it's the lira, right? Their currency, their dollar has dropped. I think it used to be one of their dollars, $1 American got you 30, and now it's something like 1 to 1,300. Like you need to go in with a suitcase to buy a loaf of bread of paper notes. People are fed up with it. And that, together with the Masa Amini protests, where they were killing girls for not wearing their hijabs right, there is so much pent-up resentment in that country that it finally boiled over. And I saw videos all over X, we're posting it on our X account, where civilians are taking out the IRGC guys. You see a truck full of IRGC stormtroopers show up and they just throw Molotov cocktails into it and send it all on fire. I saw a guy on his motorcycle run over a police officer, just an IRGC guy who was trying to hit people with sticks.
It's like watching toy soldiers. It's pretty awesome. All these civilians and young people are just taking out well-armed soldiers. And by the way, I just want to let you know, I looked it up to make sure I wasn't crazy. I'm right. I see it. It's in the Times. It's in the Russian papers. It's in the Israeli papers. It's in the Independent. It's all over the place.
I read it too.
Iran's Khomeini has, now this is a contingency plan, it's an escape plan to flee to Moscow if the regime falls amid protests, which it seems like it will. This was not even a day ago that all this broke. We hope it will. Absolutely, we hope it will.
The difference this time between the other protests, and they were protesting and Obama was president, he said zero. He did not back the people.
Yeah.
Biden,
correct.
Nothing. Trump came out and he said, if you start shooting your protesters, we are locked and loaded. We are coming in.
And when did he say it? Wait, when did he say it? Very important, because it was a Trump perfect designed man who knows how to work
He said it
sweep
the other night.
sweep. He said it right after he brought Maduro home.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
While Maduro, while the videos of Maduro, the AI videos of him spitting while he's in the glasses and everything, while he was on the plane, amazing stuff. He lands and then he says, "Hey, there's some other countries that are causing problems, and if Iran keeps killing people, we have to take care of that next."
Yeah,
Immediately upon land.
Listen, the answers that him and Rubio give, and the way Rubio just shouted down this CBS reporter yesterday when she was like, "Well, how
Right.
come you didn't take out everybody else?" And he's like, "How come we didn't take out everybody else? You know what type of mission this was? We were able to pull off this mission. You take out 6 different people at 6 separate places. And he was like, that's absurd." And it was a great answer. I just want to end with this because Men brought it up before the show. He was not on the show last week when you and I were discussing why I believe people like Tucker Carlson have blood on their hands, why I believe a lot of people in the woke right actually have blood on their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And because going back to Men's point, that dirty
You were
word,
dead on about, by the way.
which is regime change, which has
Mhm.
been used to really castrate. That's what I loved about the other night, Golan, was America was back. I mean, Hegseth looked really strong the other night. Trump, they all look so strong the other night. I mean, if that wasn't an advertisement for joining up, I don't know what was. What he disagreed with. And listen, I think right now at this point, it's interesting. Matt Gaetz came out and said, well, Vance is going to be the guy in 2028. And I happen to think right now that Vance is a lame duck vice president. I do not think that Trump sees him as taking over the Don Doctrine, whatever you want to call it, or the Trump mantle. Everybody's been saying this, like how many jobs Rubio has at this point. For Rubio to go to vice president would be 1,000 steps down right now. And I find it very interesting that you could put JD Vance on a milk carton right now. He's been missing for the last week of Bibi being at Mar-a-Lago the same day as Zelensky. He was missing from this thing. And if you want to make a vice president powerful, you put him in those pictures. Now, he wasn't in those pictures. And I got to be honest, somebody brought this up to me. I don't want to say who, because I thought it was an exceptional point. I think when he went to Turning Point and did not distance himself from the fringe, I think the White House, and especially Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, they can't trust him. On a case like this, the White House has to say to themselves, can we trust a guy who's comms person or second in charge of comms, which is Tucker Carlson's son, Buckley, is in JD Vance's office? Can we trust him with this? I'm speculating, man. Pure speculation.
I want to hear Men's response. You know what my response is going to be, and
I just want to preface it by saying, it's a pure speculation. What I'm saying, I have zero proof. I call it the Judah gut from watching this for a long time.
That Judah gut has served me well, though, I'll tell you.
But go ahead, man.
I I don't think JD being in the room, maybe for optics, for as far as like, the presence of the vice president being there in the images, that could be something. But as far as him not being there for fears that his office might leak something, the vice president has full access. There's nothing that's off limits to the vice president. So he knows everything that's going on anyway. So I don't think that's an accurate take. I did hear the president talking to a reporter on Air Force One. I think Laura Loomer posted it, which was, who do you think is a stronger? You sent it to me, Laura Loomer.
He said the question was, who has your ear more? And he said, Rubio or Vance, and he said it's 50-50, which is a very different answer than he gave months ago when asked certain types of questions. That 50-50 answer was an extremely telling answer of who's your go-to guy. And again, I'll ask this question. I'll put it out plainly like this to you, man.
Don't move on before I get to respond.
I'm not. Man, I'll say it like this. Because people love to use the 3 a.m. phone call. I don't even think the 3 a.m. phone call exists anymore, since at this point in life, it could be 2 p.m. phone call. But 3 a.m. phone call, who do you feel comfortable getting that phone call, Vance or Rubio?
So I am a bigger Rubio fan than I am a Vance. I'm also a Vance fan. I like Vance. But if you're going to ask me between the two, I like Rubio better. I think his head is on straight. I think Vance has been a bit swayed by his buddies. The fact that he can't distance himself from Tucker is very telling. I'll be the first one to say it. Rubio has been steadfast and consistent. The guy's been sharp as a tack for as long as I've, known the guy. He's on it. He knows what he's talking about. So has Vance somewhat disappointed me? A bit, yeah, for sure.
Can I ask you, since you've
Yeah.
mentioned 100 times on the show that you're a fan and that he's so smart, what are you a fan of? What has JD Vance done since becoming vice president? I don't mean he wrote a great book or, pulled up himself up by his bootstraps or whatever, or saved his meemaw, none of that stuff. I'm talking about since becoming vice president. What has he done that made you go, oh yeah, this is my guy?
I mean, you read anything that he publishes talking about the administration and what they're accomplishing and the reasons for that they're doing these things. It's very clear. It's very concise. He has a great way of disseminating information that people just understand. The guy is sharp. He's smart.
He's a good writer.
He's a good writer, and
when it comes to the economy,
when
it comes to the economy, I agree with you 100%. When he comes to breaking down what Trump is doing with the economy, without a doubt, you're 100% correct.
It's like the subway thing, the Mamdani swearing in on us in a subway platform. With Vance, if there's enough things that are troublesome to call out, such as his relationship with Tucker hosting Nick Fuentes and Vance not saying anything, Nick Fuentes calling Vance's wife Jeet, and Vance not saying anything about Tucker platforming, like all of that stuff, yeah, you could call it out. But to make up this thing that he's stupid, it doesn't hold water. And
who's stupid? Nobody has said JD Vance is stupid.
Some people have asked me why I think he's smart. Why do you think he's so smart?
There's a difference between
me asking. Yeah, thank you.
Why somebody's smart and saying that they're stupid. They're two totally separate things. Okay, they're two totally.
Your defense of him when he does stuff that is clearly not okay is he's really smart. And I'm asking, what do you think makes him smart? I didn't say I think he's stupid. In fact, I think he knows exactly what he's doing. On the other hand, I don't think you need inside leaks or anonymous sources. You just need eyes to see that he was supposed to be, right from the beginning, the intellectual heir, the working class whisperer, the populist philosopher king because of his way of speaking to all the people who had also been in a trailer park once or whatever. But he's absent. He's not defining portfolio. He's not part of the signature fight.
I think he's running the RNC's fundraising. He's the head of finance for the RNC.
I want to say something more important.
For vice president,
more important,
right?
I wanted to refute something you said. And this is, forget whether you don't like, whatever. You're saying he knows everything anyway and he can't leak. And
which isn't true, by the way.
That is absolutely not true. I want, this is for you, men, and for our listeners. It is not only possible to keep the vice president out of the loop, but it is historically common to do so.
No. Okay? So what I meant was that he has top security clearance. He's not going to know.
The Constitution gives the vice president title, not control. Okay, this is actually incredibly important for people to understand. There's no command role. There's no guaranteed access to intelligence. That is not true. It is not part of the job description. There's no independent executive authority for anything. He has no policymaking power unless he's delegated to do so. There are three jobs only that a vice president has.
That's the only thing.
There
he can't be fired.
Three jobs. Forget fired, not fired. There are three jobs a vice president has. One, break Senate ties. Two, be alive if the president dies. And three, whatever the president lets them do. That's it. Everything else, access to information, access to meetings, access to briefings, everything else is purely discretionary. It is important that intelligence access is not need to know, is need to know. It is not rank based. You don't get access just because you're a vice president, because he doesn't automatically receive intelligence briefings. He doesn't automatically receive like covert action details. He doesn't automatically receive compartmented programs or ongoing operational planning. Nothing. The president decides what and when the vice president sees whatever they see. It is a fallacy to think the vice president has access to everything. It is actually the opposite, and it is historically done when a vice president, when there's a feeling the vice president can't be trusted, this is not the first time it's happened. So I
by the way,
want you to know that, and the audience to know that.
it's also important to note that you can't fire a vice president. You
That
could
is true.
marginalize them. The last one to leave office was Agnew because, well, he was corrupt. Nothing to do with Watergate. He did leave Nixon's administration in 1973. Watergate happened to happen after that. So I think there have been two vice presidents that have resigned. So listen, men, I'm not saying he's not smart. I think he's exceptionally shrewd. I just sometimes
I
think,
do too.
I think sometimes you play the wrong hand. And I think when he went and did that turning point thing, listen, 5 months ago, however many months ago, remember it was him and Zelensky in the White House with Trump. Wasn't that long ago that he was in that room when he was the one that got pissed off at Zelensky and Trump came to JD's defense. It wasn't that long ago. So I just find it extremely interesting that in the past week, three massive things, which is Bibi going to the White House, Zelensky going to the White House, and the strikes the other night, he was not a part of. I also said that I think that Susie Wiles did a direct hit piece on him in Vanity Fair. And I said, if I'm wrong, Susie Wiles will be fired in 2 weeks. Well, Susie Wiles is still the chief of staff. That's it, man. That's my speculation on it. I think he sees his successor as being Rubio, who's now got 40, and
is present at every important thing that happens, front and center, either whispering in the guy's ear or the one giving the speech, every single time.
So it's funny. I Googled, does VP Vance, and it auto-filled for me with wear eyeliner. So I had to click that.
I've heard that one before, but that's the one where I won't go. That, like when you say like the dog whistles, I saw that too, that come up. Somebody brought up the eyeliner thing. I'm like, I'm just totally.
Honestly, I wondered about it because it did look like, and sometimes I would look at pictures. I was like, is this guy wearing eyeliner?
Like DeSantis wearing lifts.
I think they call it guy liner. DeSantis might wear lifts, but then I did the other one, which was, does VP Vance have Yankee white security clearance, which is a security clearance that they usually give to the VP because he's so close to the president, and there's no definitive answer. So I don't know. It sounds like Golan knows more about this than I do. So I'm going to...
You know why?
I'm not the guy that actually brought up the subject.
Do you know why I know about this? There's only one reason. It has to do with Judah. So Judah and I share a favorite president, I think, right? Nixon? Yeah. So we share that in common. And he famously, with Spiro Agnew, didn't tell him anything about Vietnam, didn't tell him anything about foreign policy, didn't tell him anything about Watergate. Like, he kept him out of almost everything. But I can give you, and so as a result of that, I went through, it was like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know. So I did my own research. Then I went through a list, and it was like, I don't remember everybody, but it was like FDR didn't, his vice president, I don't remember his name now, I'm embarrassed to say, but he had a quote where he was like, the vice president isn't worth a bucket of warm spit. Right? That was FDR's vice president because he didn't tell him anything. Woodrow Wilson's didn't tell him anything. Dan Quayle was sidelined about everything. By the way, what's his name? Trump's first vice president. Blanking. Thank you. Pence was left. He was told stuff after it was done, after the operations were done.
The first one to really remake the vice presidency was Dick Cheney.
It's so interesting you say that because it's so interesting that you say that because I was going on in my head about because I keep on saying it's a celebratory role. Really, in a way, it's a celebratory role.
Came along
except
and
Dick
Halliburton
Cheney
to make trillions of dollars off of him being vice president and starting those wars and funding those wars and facilitating the wars and selling food to the troops out there and all of that stuff. All Halliburton, all Dick Cheney,
right? No, so getting back to it, I think there are a lot of people that are feeling extremely uncomfortable right now with what they are witnessing. And I'm talking about, listen, somebody said to me, it's too crude to say this, but let me put it like this. Ben Shapiro was the happiest man in America yesterday because of his interaction with Megyn Kelly, because Tucker was defending Maduro being socially conservative, and Ben Shapiro had like the greatest comeback. Like on the list of like all the things you're going to defend them, he's anti-LGBTQ. Like that.
Who gives an F is, I believe, what his response was.
Right. Who gives a whatever? And so I do think there's a certain element, and I think Golan, we were talking about the votes, and I think when you look at it, what Trump did the other night, yeah, you might lose some Tucker votes. But man, did he gain some old GOP back into the party the other night. When you look at who is supporting it, your Low Energy was supporting it. That's Jeb Bush. You had Meghan McCain, who's got no love lost for Trump. You had Mike Pence, who's got no loss for Trump, love lost. So listen, whatever happens, I do think he's a lame duck right now. I do not advocate for whoever burglarized his home in Cincinnati. I hope they arrest him and put him in jail for 30 years because the guy's got young children. Thank God he wasn't home. And that's what separates us from the left. When you look at people like Anna Kasparian and any of those people, they literally wish harm on us. They literally wish harm. And I do not want any harm. Well, to most people, I'm not going to, to most people. But nobody in our party do I want harm to. So with that, I'm happy we had that conversation. Somebody was asking me about swag earlier, so we have to get on that.
Yeah, we got to give a shout out to Dave for hooking up
Yeah.
the swag. We got to give a shout out to Aaron, AJ for reminding us to touch on Iran. He was very adamant that we discuss it. So 2 shout outs for me.
2 shout outs. Okay. And also we'll give everybody a shout out. There were a lot of on Substack. So, men, you brought up a couple of times, and we forget sometimes where we're posting. So yes, we'll start posting the stuff that Men says we're going to post on Substack. We will post that, but it's usually on Instagram or on his X that he posts a lot of the stuff that he says he'll post later. That's where he usually posts it. It's not Substack. And so it's good to have all 3 of us back. I believe Men will be off tomorrow, but I will be here with the Go On. Thank God he's feeling better. He almost once again died while he was overseas in another country.
That's an exaggeration for effect.
Yeah, it's go on. We're starting to get worried. And
Stop eating the street food.
Yes, that
Never.
I was with a friend. I got a good story. I was with a friend before we get off. I was with a friend in Egypt. We were touring Egypt in like 1991. And he wanted the authentic experience. He's like, I'm going to buy this kebab on the street. I'm like, don't do it. He's eating cakes and stuff all from the street. By the time we got done with Cairo, Luxor, Thebes, and all that, we made it to Sinai, and we wound up getting stuck in a little town called Dahab. We were supposed to be there for 2 days and wound up taking 2 weeks. I had to take him to the hospital. I'm banging on the door. Some guy comes out in dirty scrubs. Literally, it was like 6 a.m., 5 a.m. And I'm playing charades with the guy. You know, my friend ate and he's pooping and all that. And he's like, he comes back with a syringe, 2 little vials. And I'm like, I don't know what this guy's about to give you. And my buddy looks at it, he goes, it's got the International Red Cross on it. I'm sure it's good. Gives him a shot in the butt. But as he's about to give him that shot, I said, whoa, picture. So the guy posed with his bloodstained scrubs, half asleep. He posed for a shot, and I have
this was the days way before the selfie. I do have a great Dahab story, but we've gone on way too long.
Wait, I got to tell one. The beginning, I can't not share my story after that, which is much shorter. Which is basically, I was in the country of Georgia.
You know, that's the great lie.
Of course, it's the great lie. I was in the country of Georgia, which is third world country, to be sure. I went into a house made of petrified wood where the goats were living amongst the people and everything else, and they had these bags hanging from the ceiling that were dripping white water. And I said, "What's that?" And through some charades, I found out it was homemade cheese they were making. I was like, I got to try this. So I took a hunk of it. It was so good. I took more. I was a little fatty back then. Took more. And my dad, my brother who were with me were like, all right, enough with the cheese. I'm like, have you tried this? Let me take one more piece before we leave. That night, all the stuff Men just mentioned, turns out I received a Georgian parasite that went home with me for 3 weeks. Couldn't eat, sweating like nonstop. And street food, I still eat it today. So I never learned my lesson.
You guys are like talking about every night when I drank. So it's like deja vu all over again. I want to thank you both. And of course, I want to thank Turbo in the chats. He was itching for when we have another live stream. So really thank you for the support. Thank you for all the support we get on Truth. And here's the thing, I'm just going to say this. Everything we've discussed, we don't always agree with, but I like how we debate and I like how we discuss things. And I wish more and more people could do it. You could have a discussion without ending a friendship. You could have a discussion without calling people names. And I think that's something that is so lost. And if we offer anything, it's that. I want people to be able to take things they've heard on this show and bring it out into the real world and not just think they could go blitzkrieg on people. That's not how people debate. What we're witnessing right now with Tucker and Megyn Kelly's and all these people is not normal behavior. It's not sane behavior. I discourage it 100%, not out of jealousy, just because it's disgusting and it's vile. And you push more people away. And what I love about Trump's speech the other night was, I will end with this, it was magnificent. He brought the party together the other night. He did something so remarkable the other night with it was a remarkable night, that press conference. It was just remarkable. So congratulations to President Trump for not listening to anybody but your gut and the people that you hired, which is so much different than 8 years ago. And think about where we were going 8 years ago. So God bless you, and God bless all the people that listen to the show. I want to remind everybody you can find us at thedailycheatsheet.com. I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world wherever you are. God bless you all.